the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is Spirit Session Podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hello, everybody. It is Katie, your Ayurveda Gal Friday, here with you. Happy spring, everybody. We have a really great podcast for you today because it occurred to all of us that some of you are new to the podcast, some of you are new to our social media, and we do a lot of like funny memes and stuff on our podcast and on our social, and we throw out these Ayurveda terms as if everybody understands them. And how would you if you're new to this? So today's podcast is for everyone, but it is especially for people that are new to Ayurveda. We're going to talk about what is Ayurveda and what are these 3 mind-body types, also known as the doshas, that everyone talks about when they first learn about Ayurveda. And so if you're new, welcome, welcome. If you're not new, do you really understand the doshas? I know that these archetypes, these patterns are always good to return to and study and learn something new about. So I hope that you will listen, whether this is totally new for you or you are old school in this philosophy and science of living. But before we jump into that, just a really big fun announcement to let you know that we have officially opened the front door for signups for our 2025 year-long Ayurveda certification course. And guess what? We know it's early, it's the spring, but we are offering a special, incredible gift. We are going to give you all of the textbooks that you are required to have. That's my book and several others that we love for you guys to have. So if you're thinking about joining the course, it is a year-long study into Ayurveda and really women's wisdom, feminine form, meditation. It's a life-changing course. If you've been a listener and you're like 2025, that's when I'm going to sign up. Well, get in now because we're going to give the first 10 people to sign up for the course all of your textbooks and we will mail them to you. Link's going to be in the bio to find out about that. And without further ado, let's talk about what is Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the science of living. It is the science of life. It is the art and philosophy from ancient and modern current day India that has been held for humanity for thousands of years. And it is a human study of nature and the way that nature is, the way the seasons are, the way that all of our bodies respond to nature. And perhaps most importantly for you, dear listener, it's about how you can understand how you are unique. And so just imagine for a moment in this wide, wide world and this wide web of the natural world, which, yes, does include technology. It's a part of life. We think of nature as kind of like the forest or something like that, but nature is us. It's everything. And in this wide expanse of beauty and life and expression, we have all of these different elements that come together to make things really unique and fun and beautiful. So right now I'm in beautiful, beautiful Central Virginia in the wine country. And, the peach and the pear and the apple blossoms are just like popping off, right? And you have this beautiful white and pink and the fragrance of the air, and the bees are buzzing and the flowers are blooming and the birds are just like frenetic with their joy. And all of that is springtime. And so you get all of this amazing beauty. And guess what else? Seasonal allergies. And guess what else? You start to want to, hopefully, if you're balanced and healthy, you want to move your body. You might want to eat a little lighter because you've been holding extra baggage, and that's healthy. In the winter, we hold more. And so within this wide, wide expanse of beauty and nature, we also have something called an orchid. You can imagine a beautiful orchid in your mind. And it's delicate, and it doesn't like for you to water it too much, and it doesn't like to be near certain windows. It's sensitive, and it's thin and papery and really one of the most beautiful things in the world, right? And now imagine you've got a big old fat bullfrog and he's like super chunky and beautiful in his girth and his wet, heavy, silly body, and think of those little legs, but then that big, fat, juicy body. Now we could go on and on and on. I just mentioned two things that came to my mind, but the bullfrog and the orchid are really wonderful examples of the polarity of how Ayurveda sees human beings. Ayurveda divides all people into 3 different mind-body types. Some of us are orchids. Some of us are bullfrogs. And some of us are fiery creatures in the middle. So we're going to talk about these 3 doshas. What does the word dosha mean? Dosha means a fault, not like it's your fault, like a fault line. And a good definition of it is that which is waiting to go out of balance in you. Now, we go into this in depth in Ayurveda school, but you've got a body-mind type that you were born with. It's yours. It's not going to change. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of us were born with big bones. They're heavy. They're thick. Some of us were born with thin, little bones. They're not thick. They're not heavy. And no matter what you do, if you're a thin-boned woman, you are not going to turn into a thick-boned woman. It's just not a thing. All right. And that's one teeny tiny example of like 300 different data points we could map. And we do map at our level 1 program, so you can really know what you were when you were born. And then there's the way that you get out of balance over a lifetime that may be similar to the way you were born, and it may be totally different. So this is a little more complicated. And if you want the complicated, you just got to join us in January 2025. So you can sign up today to go super deep with this. But today in this podcast, I'm going to give you the basics for understanding the mind-body types from when you were born. So imagine that all of life was created in 5 different elemental patterns. You can imagine it really simply: air, ether, fire, water, and earth. And that might sound really esoteric and weird. And it's like, what poetry are you spouting? And it's really, really simple. It's space. You and I are sitting here together, and you're in your room or in your car listening to this, and you can look around your car, your room, or maybe if you're lucky, you're out in nature, and can you feel there's a space between your body and all the other things? When you and I sit together, the reason that 2 human beings are able to fall in love with each other is that there is space in between them. If there weren't space in between 2 human beings, they couldn't fall in love, because it's the I'm over here and you're over there-ness that creates something really cool. And that's our separation. And that's why falling in love feels so good, because you're separate and you're looking at this other person like, oh, you're so great, and I want to be close to you. If there were no space and there were no separation in reality, everything would just be one big blob. And that's really, really boring. So imagine an empty room, and now you turn on the fan or you open a window, and now wind blows through the space. And that's this element of air. Air is the principle of movement. Space is the principle of nothingness, openness, freedom. Air is the principle of that which changes. Wind. The way we know it's wind is that it moves, it changes. It's here and now it's there. That is how we know it's wind. And now imagine you're in front of a beautiful bonfire and you sit in front of that fire. And in order to make the fire bigger and brighter, you take a little tiny little bit of gasoline, or you take a little bit of ghee if you're doing a fire ceremony. And that oil makes the fire big and bright. And that's this next element, which is the element of fire, which is that fire. And we know if you put a little bit of oil on it, the fire gets big. The fire is the principle of transformation, of warmth, of heat, of that which takes one thing, in this metaphor, the wood, and burns it and turns it into warmth and ash. And now imagine that you go outside and you take a bucket and you fill it up with dirt. And that dirt and rock is the earth element. And now you pour in just a little bit of water. And now you've got water, which is the principle of that which is wet and takes up the shape of whatever it encounters. Water molds the land. And earth, which is the principle of heaviness and stability. So those are the general 5 elements, and we could talk about those for many, many hours, which, as I said, we really do that in our long course. But for today, let's just take those 5 elements, and guess what? They like to play around with one another. And so imagine that bucket of earth, of water, and you stick your hand in there, and guess what it is? It's mud. It's heavy. It's cool. It's damp. And we call that the first Ayurvedic dosha, which is called kapha. Kapha is the mixture of earth and water in your mind and your body. Well, just use your intuition. What does it feel like? It feels heavier than air and fire, for sure, and definitely than space. It's cool. It's heavy. If you ever get mud on something, especially if it dries, it doesn't like to move. It's sticky. It hangs around. You got to get out the sponge and the spray and really rub it off, right? Is the principle of stability, solidity, growth, that which builds, that which stays. And we love this, right? In the physical world, this is the bricks, this is the mortar, this is the cement, this is the thing that makes skyscrapers and roads and bridges. And we want our roads and bridges and buildings to be strong and steady. We don't want them to move around. But now let's think about you. Some of you were born with a lot of this. And if you are primarily a kapha mind-body type, you are going to have bigger bones. You're going to have more muscle and fat naturally on your body. You are going to be heavier, not in a, oh my God, you're fat way. Not at all. Just in the principle that you've got more of that earth and water. You're a bigger person. And there's a lot of advantages to that. You are strong. You are stable. You in your mind tend to be more grounded, more strong, more stable mentally. That's a good thing. You're also watery, and that's emotional, love, attachment, bonding, mothering, attachment. And so on the positive side, I always say kapha people make great human resources people. They make great employees because they stick around, right? And they're willing to work hard and be strong for you and be grounded, and they're reliable. Really, kaphas are the most reliable people in the world when they're in balance. When kapha people are out of balance, they're going to tend to want to eat more sweets. They're going to tend to go out of balance in having more than they need on their bodies and in their lives. And so I always make the joke, kapha people are our hoarders. They like teddy bears on their bed. They like to collect shoes. They like to collect magazines. They don't like to give things away. They might need it one day, right? It's the principle of gathering towards yourself. Now, that's good. That also means you can gather resources. You gather friends. You gather family. But the shadow of that is you might hold too much excess tissue in the form of fat or even excess muscle, excess water weight. You may, on a subtle level, hold on to old grievances. You never forget what your enemy did to you, right? You're going to hold on to this to the day you die. It's like resentment, unforgiveness, hoarding things. In our body, physically, kapha imbalances show up as excess phlegm and mucus, especially in the lungs, any kind of mucus conditions in our bowel movements. Kapha people can go for a while without eating. They're like the least concerned, but they can, again, tend to overeat when they do eat. There are many, 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 many more imbalances. But again, you're going to have to just join our course because there's so many that we go over. It would take me like a month of just talking on the podcast about kapha. But I wanted to give you a good idea about maybe what these things are. And we also have a fun little quiz that I'm going to link to in the show notes. If you're not following us on Instagram or Facebook, you should, because we do funny videos that really help educate you more on the specifics of the seasons and the doshas and how they're related to you. So what's the next one? The next one's called pitta. Pitta is the principle of change and transformation. It is the energy of fire. It is heat. It is sharp. It is penetrating. It is changing things from one thing to another. And if you were born with a lot of this, you're going to have more of a medium build. Your features are going to be more sharp, like sharp eyebrows, sharp nose, pointed features. If you've got that widow's peak on your hairline, that's pitta. If you're a guy listening to this and you have balding, especially early balding, that's a sign of pitta, aka high testosterone in men is high pitta. Also in women, high testosterone. It's also medium build. Those muscles, people with pitta builds are the ones where we can really see your muscles. Kapha people are the people that win the strongest man and woman in the world competition, but you can't even barely see their muscles because the muscles are covered in fat, and that's not bad. I'm going to say that again. The strongest people in the world, you can't even see their muscles as well as a pitta person, where it's like Shape magazine, right? It's like Men's Health. They've got the 6 to 8 pack abs and they're sticking out. Their biceps are sticking out. Their calves muscles are sticking out because they don't have as much substance as a kapha. Pitta people are going to be that more medium build. Now, again, there's many data points around 250 to 300 we could go over just around your physical and mental body. But just to give you the quickie, if you're a pitta person, you are going to be the one who gets angry quickest. I don't know why I'm singing that, probably because I am very pitta myself. And, it's like you get hangry if you miss a meal. You have the highest metabolism of everyone. You have to eat 3 regular meals. You are good at burning through bullshit. You're a good judge of character. You can see things clearly. You are a good strategizer. You're a good leader. Usually you're a good speaker. You have a sharp intellect. And guess what? You can use that intellect for sharpness, but on the other side, it can come off as you being kind of harsh and kind of sharp and maybe even a mean girl or a mean man, right? And so we have to really watch the sharpness of fire and temper it with water. Pitta people get rashes, they get acne, that red type of acne. They tend to have looser stools, whereas a kapha person will go to the bathroom maybe once a day. A pitta person might go 2 or even 3 times a day because things are burning through them quicker. Another really important one I always mention when we do our year-long program is pitta is also criticism. You can be critical of other people, but more importantly, and what we see more often is that you're critical mostly to yourself. You tend to be a perfectionist. You expect, you set goals and you want to achieve them even if you can't, and so there's this real sense of like achievement and valuing yourself for your success in the world rather than who you are. Oh, I want to talk so much about this, but guess what? You're just going to have to join the course if you're like, what? Oh my God, I think I'm this. I think I'm that. You're speaking my language. Get in our level 1 2025. Okay. We're going to spend like months on this. And by the end, you'll really know what you were born with, who you really are, and the way that you've gone off track and gone out of balance so we can come back. Okay. The last one, vata. The principle of air and ether, space and movement coming together. Now, these are my people. I love my vata people. I've got a lot of this in myself. And remember, you have all 3 of these. You're just going to usually have one more than the others, right? There's rare cases where you have 2 of them in the same amount. And even more rare, we do have people that are tridoshic, meaning you have all 3 in equal amounts, which is awesome because you have all the superpowers. And it sucks because you can get all the imbalances. So here we dedicate this last part of class to the vata people. Oh, vatas. You are our air and space people, which means you're barely on the planet. These are my fairies, my angels, my psychics, my spirit workers. Now, does this mean that you, if you're a kapha or pitta, you aren't that? No, it just means if you've got more of a thin bone structure, a fine, light frame, if your features, your body is long and lanky and you have thin bones, you're vata. Long, lanky, thin bones, long features, irregular features, you're vata. You're probably born a vata. The bones are the first thing I look at, and I look at the palm. If you look at your hand and it's really long, your fingers are long, your palm is long, that's vata. If it's medium, it's pitta. If the base of your palm is wider than it is thin, you are going to be kapha. I look at the hands, I look at the bone structure, I look at the face, and I can get a good idea of what that person was born with. Now, are there hundreds of other things? For sure. But that's going to give us a good idea. So vatas, long and lanky, the mind tends to be a little bit of what they are. They are spacey. It's not bad. But when out of balance, vata people can be space cadets. They forget their keys. They forget their appointments. They don't know when they're going on a trip and their friends have to remind them. And they get a little bit ungrounded really easily. These are my babes with the nervous systems. And trust me, I have this. I understand this. The nervous system cannot handle as much as a kapha. They just can't. It's like if you get overwhelmed by a lot of activity, in our culture, we call this introversion. It's my theory that sensitive people who are introverts, a lot of you guys are just vatas. And, we have this new thing. Everybody thinks they're ADHD. Well, that may be true, but that's just a new word for what the ancients called vata people. And it wasn't medicalized and it wasn't stigmatized, right? But society that we live in now isn't built for vatas. It's built for pittas and kaphas, and mostly pitta kaphas. So in the ancient days, if you were a vata and you were sensitive and you were an artist and a spirit woman and a seer or a psychic or a sage or a yogi, a seeker, you would be in a temple, right? You would be in an ashram. You would be the wise woman that people would pilgrimage to as an oracle. You would be, in a way, protected in a certain sense from the ravages of gross, and I don't mean ew, I mean just dense society. So this is me loving you as a vata if you're listening. Our vatas are our priestesses, our priests. You are great philosophers and scientists and deep thinkers. It really is deep thinking. And also you can feel energy really well. Now, the downside is vata people tend to have thinner hair, drier skin. When their digestion's out of balance, it's going to always tend towards irregularity in the form of constipation. If you get constipated, my girl, you are probably a vata. And then you get diarrhea, right? Because it's like, oh my God, why do I have constipation and now lose stools? That's still vata. Dry vagina, low libido. Our features when we're vata tend to be more thin, thinner lips, finer features. It's not bad. It's beautiful. Every single dosha, just like the bullfrog and the orchid and the lion and the elephant and the deer and the aspen tree and the oak, we all have our qualities. And they're all beautiful. And they each fulfill a different purpose on the planet. The orchid is fulfilling orchidness. And the bullfrog is fulfilling bullfroggedness. So don't try to be a bullfrog if you're an orchid, okay? Learn about who you are. Then learn to accept it. And then learn what your destiny is on this planet and learn how to love it. It's more important that you be a bullfrog badly than for you to try to be an orchid perfectly when you're not. I hope this has piqued your interest. I hope this will inspire you to maybe go read my book, Healthy, Happy, Sexy, take our quiz. But most importantly, the way you can really be a part of this and share it with other people as a coach is to join our year-long program. Once again, this is our celebratory episode that we have that launching now. It is open January 2025. If you're my first girl, if you're my first lady to register, not only am I going to give you all your textbooks, but I'm going to send you a special crazy gift that you can't even believe. And I'm not even going to tell you what it is. It's going to be a surprise. If you are the first woman to register for 2025, I'm going to send you something that's going to blow your mind and make this whole summer just the best summer ever. All right, beauties, I hope that you enjoyed, hopefully, this fun, informative, helpful talk on the doshas. Remember, if you're not on our social media, get in there and we will hope to see you soon in the Shakti School. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.